haka at the beginning of my presentation. It's always a good way to get things started, and I think you agree that the All Blacks definitely start well, so hopefully I carry on from their tradition. So good afternoon everybody, and thank you for coming along to my presentation today. Obviously I'll be talking about our move to the cloud and where we've come from, where we are now, and where we're going to head up into in the future. So before I get things started, I've got a signed rugby ball. I've signed by the All Blacks, so I'd like to give that away to some lucky person in the crowd. So can anyone tell me who scored the last try against the... You put your hand up already, mate? There you go, brother. Stuff. I've got one more, so don't fret, so make sure you pay attention, or else you might miss out. So, right, so I'll start with I'm not used to this lapel thing. I'll start with a little bit about myself. So, my name's Jeremy Burrows. I'm the IT manager at the New Zealand Rugby Union. I played rugby when I was at college. Played rugby at school back in the days when Bull Rush hadn't been banned already, so it's a few years back now. And we all loved Bull Rush, I'm sure. But I was only ever really interested in computing at school and playing rugby, playing in the first 15, and sort of didn't match well back then. Back in those days, you get a bit of hassles, especially when after rugby I'd go back to my mates' place and play computer games instead of going to the pub with them, all that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, enough about that. Started my IT career back 20 years ago. I worked for organisations like DHL, Progressive Enterprises, Ministry of Social Development, and Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries. Some quite big organisations with some big challenges. Worked in payroll support back in the early days, desktop support, application support, and then moved into system administration. And started at NZ Rugby Union back in 2006. Early 2006, I was appointed there as IT analyst. I'd applied for a job there a few years back, and they hunted me over those few years when I'd moved back to Wellington, and I finally said yes and started working for them. So they must have seen some promise in me. So back early last year, the IT manager back then decided that he was going to work for the Rugby World Cup. Lucky guy. And so I stepped up and said, pick me, I'll take over, and I'll move us into some new directions and help us come up with good solutions to help rugby in New Zealand. So that was me. Some projects that I've worked on recently. So back when I first started, the IT room was a bit of a mess. We had 20 servers sitting on the floor, sitting on shelves. Was a complete mess. Not the messiest IT room I've seen, but it was definitely a mess. So we decided back then to virtualise. So we moved all those servers into a IBM Blade with four physical servers and then virtualised. So we'd already taken a step into the cloud and moved into a virtual cloud. So that helped things out, cut out a few licenses and all that sort of stuff. Another project I worked on was our national rugby database, commonly known as NERD at the Rugby Union. It's the only way we could get NERD into rugby, so we managed to do that. And so that's another project I'll explain about more later. And obviously, the most recent project was migrating our stuff to the cloud, so our Exchange and our SharePoint server migrated to the cloud. I'm sure you want to know a little bit about New Zealand Rugby. If you don't, well, I'm going to tell you anyway. So our main goal at the New Zealand Rugby Union is to keep rugby running competitively in New Zealand through our outstanding competitions, through club and school level up to our professional level, where we've got the ITM Cup and Super Rugby and the All Blacks tournaments. So that's our main goal, and to have All Blacks as a winning team. And I'm sure you all attest that we're doing that really well at the moment. We haven't lost all year, and touch wood, we won't lose until after 2011, which would be great. I wish there was some wood here that I really would touch it. It's full of passionate people, as you can imagine. People at the New Zealand Rugby Union love rugby. I mean, you wouldn't survive there if you didn't. So, right from our front desk concierge, we call him a concierge because he welcomes people to our organisation. We don't call him a receptionist. One, because he's huge and he'd kill us, and another because he's a concierge. He's just a really nice guy, and he really welcomes people onto the organisation. And as you can imagine, we've got people coming in, day out. Wanting to have a look at our trophies, wanting to see what we do at rugby, and we welcome people with open arms, and he's really good at that. So it goes all the way from him all the way up to Steve Chew, who's an amazing character. He works hard to keep rugby running in New Zealand and is passionate about what he's doing. And he has the mantra that he wants to leave New Zealand rugby in a better place than when he first started. And I've taken that up as well, and a lot of us at New Zealand Rugby, we're all just trying our best day in, day out to do the best for that place. So we've got several areas of the business that are normal to every business. We've got your corporate services team, so they're basically IT, finance, HR, all those normal sort of things. Then you get into cool stuff like our commercial team who are constantly trying to rope in new sponsors, maintain sponsorship agreements like with Adidas, who are a great sponsor of ours, and Telecom, and we're actively seeking new big names at the moment. And they also do cool stuff like player promos and all that sort of stuff. So they have a really cool job and get junkets all the time. This is my only junket this year, I think. Lucky me. You've got a communications team, so we constantly releasing stuff to the media, and we want to release it as accurately as possible. So we've got a communications team that's dedicated to sending out media releases, making sure that we get the right message across to the public who want to know stuff about us. We've got a community rugby team, so we've got a community rugby and provincial union team. So they look after all the provincial unions. They look after schools, clubs, all that sort of stuff, coaching, and keeping the game running in good shape in New Zealand. And you've got a professional rugby team, so they look after high performance, so they're monitoring players, talent ID, they're going out, keeping new players, contracting them to New Zealand, making sure that they play for us and don't defect to the dark side like Australia or South Africa. Professional referees, some people wouldn't agree with me, some people may, but we've got professional referees. You've got medical team, rugby operations, and a contracts team, so they're charged with keeping players in New Zealand and bringing in new players like, for example, Sonny Bill Williams, maybe not the greatest example at the moment, but you've got national teams, so they've got a really cool job. So they run now New Zealand Māoris, New Zealand Sevens, New Zealand Women's, who are really successful at the moment, and they've made it to the semi-finals in the Women's World Cup, and they're playing on Thursday morning at 5 a.m. if you want to get up early and watch them. And then you've got teams like the All Blacks, obviously, as well, which is what we're well known for. To give you a bit of a background on our IT setup, so when I first started, there was three of us plus a contractor when we virtualised, and we got rid of a few services that we didn't need. Like we had a mail marshal that was taking 3 to 4 hours a day to monitor and keep the mail running through properly. Replaced a few of those things, and we were able to get those down to 3 of us. And now we've moved to BPOS, and I've been able to keep that to 2. We don't have to have an Exchange expert anymore. We don't have to have a SharePoint expert. We don't have an Office communicator and all those sort of things. So been able to keep those down to 2. So we're really looking at cutting costs. And as I mentioned before, we've virtualised our entire infrastructure, so we went from 20 servers to 12 servers, and that's really worked well for us. Our national rugby database consists of areas like we're helping out our provincial unions, so it looks after their registrations of players, coaches, administrators and volunteers. So we're trying to provide a tool for a whole provincial unions to use and manage their day-to-day business. So it maintains all that. It also does their competitions where it manages and sends out feeds to the internet, so you can see what the draw is. So if you look up the draw that's come from our database, you look up results on your club portal or the Auckland Rugby Union portal, then that's got the results in there directly from our database. And it also is doing stuff like for our high performance team, because we had silos of information all over the place, as you could well imagine. In the past when we set it up, every team just did it higgledy-piggledy, but now we're just trying to bring all that information in together so you don't have duplicate information, right? So that's what we've been up to. And BPOS, which I'll get into shortly. I've just got a quick clip, show you what it's working like, what it's like to work at New Zealand Rugby Union, and this is when it was announced that the Rugby World Cup was going to be hosted in New Zealand.
My great pleasure to announce that the host union for Rugby World Cup 2011 is New Zealand.
Unfortunately, even though that's pretty cool, I wasn't there. I didn't start until 2006, and that was in 2005. But I'm pretty sure that no organisation that you guys would work for would celebrate that hard, and you should see what they got up to afterwards. I've heard stories. I'm still gutted I wasn't there. It breaks my heart every day. Right, so let's move into what I'm really here for. I'm sure you're sick of hearing about us now, so let's talk about BPOS and why we decided to move there, and why we think it's right for us. And in some later slides, I'll give you some of the good and bad points as well. So when I was appointed IT manager, be it a coincidence or not, the business started to look into our disaster recovery processes. So I don't know about the timing there. I don't know if they're trying to say something about me or not, but I took it as it is, and then we came up with the conclusion that the IT landscape had really changed since we last reviewed our disaster recovery. So and definitely the way we use it. So we were mobile back then, but now the landscape has given us more areas to utilise in mobility. So I was charged of trying to find a solution that suited us to the ground, really, and so that's what I did. Disaster recovery was obviously one of the biggest reasons why we've moved to BPOS. One of the reasons is that's our office right there, and that's a huge fault line running right past it. And as you probably hear quite often, most of you are Aucklanders, I'm not sure, but there's earthquakes all the time in Wellington, and one day they say there's going to be a big one, and that bit there is reclaimed land and will probably fall right into the sea. So I hope I'm at home, which is way up here, when that happens. But now, with our data not being, the majority of our data not being there, if there was an earthquake, I wouldn't be too concerned. I'll be running for my life, but I wouldn't be too concerned. There's also, like I mentioned, the World Cup coming up, and bomb threats are a distinct possibility, especially if we don't win the World Cup. I'm sure there'll be people sending us bombs all over the place. Touch wood again. So then you've got the likes of all those flus out there. You've got swine flu, bird flu. I'm sure there'll be sheep flu or something else coming down the radar soon. So not having to worry about having to have access to our building is really good for us and covers us. And the other day, for example, there was a fire drill, and we all had to walk outside. And my manager comes up to me, "Are you worried if there's a real fire?" And I'm like, "I'm not worried at all. Sure, I'm going to have to do some work and get our file server back up and running, and our finance and payroll engines, but our Exchange server and our SharePoint server are just going to work, and they're going to have access, and they're not going to have any worry about the data we've got stored up there, because there's no issues with that." If we move on to hardware, so we don't have to worry about hardware upgrades anymore. With Exchange 2010, SharePoint 2010, you have to run those on 64-bit machines, so I would have had to purchase new machines to run those on. Don't have to worry about that anymore. With the shutting down of my Exchange server and my SharePoint server and another server that I had, I can extend the life of our existing servers. So we've got one blade that doesn't run anymore, and if one of those other three fails, we can just be up and running straight away, and I don't have to invest in any extra hardware. Other infrastructure, disk space, so we've got plenty of disk space now because we've moved all our Exchange, like I said, in SharePoint into the cloud, and we had some big mailboxes there, and our mailbox sizes have increased in the cloud as well because the BPOS offering is a 25 gig mailbox, and I've told people don't ever delete emails ever again. Don't delete your deleted mailbox because you've got 25 gig. It's going to take about 10 years for you to fill that up. So they're quite happy with that. Plus you've got your UPS and air conditioning, your other infrastructure. So our UPS, if there was an outage, we're not running as many servers anymore, so we've got more uptime, more time for our other services to stay online. By migrating more of our stuff to the cloud, I've removed some single points of failure. So we've got one internet connection running into, we had one internet connection running into our building. If that was to chop, mail would not work. If our email firewall was to go down, email would stop working. If our Exchange server was to go down, our email would stop working. Now I don't have that worry. Email is going to work no matter what happens to my office. So that gives me some real comfort around that. Software. Early this year, our software assurance was up for renewal. So that gave me another opportunity to look at some savings. And with the move to BPOS, I was able to cut out our Exchange server licensing, our SharePoint server licensing, our backup licensing for Exchange and SharePoint, our archive manager that we ran to archive all our email off, and our ION port, which we use for our gateway. So there was some significant savings there. I was able to cut software assurance by about 20k, and that's not just solely because of BPOS, that's because I made cuts in other areas, but that was one of the reasons. Mobility is massive for us. Obviously, we're roaming all around the world all the time. We're meeting with our SANZAR partners, our IRB partners up in the UK, up in Europe, and when our guys travel, they want to have access all the time. They want to have access 24/7, basically. Not 24/7 in New Zealand, but because they're running so globally, they want access all the time. And I honestly wasn't able to guarantee that our server will be up all the time. When I go home at 5 o'clock at night, okay, 4 o'clock, I go home at that time of night, I'm not monitoring ourselves. Sure, we get text alerts if something happens, but if the internet connection was to go from our office and mail wouldn't be working, I wouldn't be able to get that text message to say that a service had gone down. So 24/7 accessibility and making it easy to access. So with BPOS, Business Productivity Online Suite, or whatever they call it, you get a single sign-on client, and that sign-on client configures everything for you to run and automatically signs you into the services that you need. So you click Outlook, as long as you've got an internet connection on your computer, you're automatically signed in. You know, they don't have to remember a password apart from their LAN password. And that's about the only issue I have with them right now, but it automatically signs them in. They're automatically connected to everything that they need. And the different devices, so at the moment, in the past we gave them Windows mobiles and laptops and browsers and all Windows based, but now, and Microsoft won't know I'm saying this, but now they can use iPhones, they can use Macs, they can use Blackberries, although I've replaced our CEO's Blackberry with an iPhone, which he loves now. He told me he was going to rip his Blackberry out of his cold dead hands, but I gave him an iPhone and he basically smashed his Blackberry to bits. So he's loving all the new technology, and I don't want to stop our guys. Like, I've got the whole idea of giving our guys the tools that they need. I don't want to be limited by the tools that I can give them. So giving them any tool that they want to do their job better, it can only help how we work in New Zealand Rugby. So like I said, mobility 24/7 support is key to us as well. So we've got an online support help desk, so you can ring up an 0800 number at any time, or you can log jobs on the internet and they'll help you straight away. Sleep. In the past, I didn't sleep so well. I've had issues before with our Exchange server where we had a contractor come in and we were upgrading just prior to the World Cup just to give us that comfortability around having a bit of redundancy and hardware failure and clustering and all that sort of stuff. So the guy came in and said, yeah, I can do that for you. You'll be sweet. We won't have any outages. We'll be sweet for the World Cup. Except the dude formatted my SAN while he was doing it. So I spent 24 hours trying to recover that. We were restoring the Exchange server, 24 hours, and right at the end of restoring the Exchange server it said, failed. So we had to scan our Exchange server. So after 24 hours I went home, back to bed. My boss came in at the time, and he did about a 12-hour stint or something like that. I came back in, did another 32 hours, and I really liked my sleep. So 32 hours, and I had food poisoning. That didn't help. But the contractor stayed the whole time, so I shouldn't be complaining, although he did destroy it and didn't make it look good. But I don't want to have that issue again, and that was another reason why I looked at moving, because that was a really stink issue to have, and I'm pretty sure it took a few years off my life. Plus I can sleep at night knowing that I don't have to worry. My server's back in the office. I don't really have to worry about them. Sure, there's your file and your finance system and all that sort of stuff, but the tool that my guys need to keep working is monitored 24/7, and it's monitored while I'm sleeping. While our guys are in Europe and the UK, I don't have phone calls saying I can't connect, because the guys that are monitoring our system know that there's a problem before my guys even see it. So training costs, so saved quite considerably there with Exchange 2010 and SharePoint 2010 coming out. Obviously you need training on how to use those things and how to get the most out of them, right? So I would have had to send, excuse me a second, I would have to send my guy on training, me on training on installation, training on maintenance, and all that sort of stuff. So those training courses aren't cheap. $3,000 a pop on it most of the time, so times two again, so over $10,000 worth of training costs I've saved. And obviously the economic crisis back last year and the year before, we were all asked to look at our budgets. We were all asked to find out how we can save money and how we can spend more money on rugby and less money on IT administration and administration around the business. So this was it's a definite saving, even though our finance guy came to me the other day and said, you've still got the same amount in your budget as last year. Well, I'm just being cheeky because I want some more toys, but they've yeah, I've offset all that sort of stuff against it, and they're completely fine that I've actually saved money. I don't have to buy those servers, like I said, and just transition my costs somewhere else. Right, so I'm sure you all want to know about the obstacles you'll face if you're looking at moving into the cloud. So this is the things I came across and the way I dealt with them. I've talked to our senior management team. So they're the ones at the end that would sign off my decision. So I sat down with each and every one of them and went through what was important to them. Obviously, email was huge for them, being able to communicate. And so I told them about the solutions that I had in mind. And they came up with these 3 areas of concern. So having your data hosted offshore. So, excuse me, it was quite an easy one to sign off, really. There's all those worries that people have with your data being in someone else's database or store or whatever. But because our guys roam so much, they're in Australia, they're in South Africa, they're in the islands, they're in Europe, they're in the UK, the best way for them to access stuff while they're offshore is to not connect all the way back to New Zealand, to connect to Singapore in a central hub was a great solution for that. So that signed that one off, and they were quite happy with that. Security, obviously, that was another one of probably the biggest issue that we had, and most organisations will face. So that was definitely one of our major concerns, and we talked to Microsoft. We've got lawyers up the wazoo at New Zealand Rugby and covering our ass for everything, and signing up contracts. We've got massive contracts and deals, so we've got plenty of lawyers. So we gave it to our lawyers, and they had a look over the SLAs, and they were completely comfortable with what was included in the SLA and how it was addressed. Microsoft also have the funds and the manpower to come up with the latest IT security gurus to constantly fight those battles and spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, fighting those hackers or whoever's trying to come into your network. I don't have stuff or money to spend when it comes to security and all the experience, or the manpower to do so. So the best secure systems would be in a secure data center like Microsoft have. They've got armed guards. Oh, they've got a BB gun, probably. What else have I got in here? So I know where our data is stored. It's in Singapore somewhere, so I'm still waiting for Microsoft to fly me over. They've asked me to come here, so maybe they might get me to fly to Singapore as well, so I'll know where our data actually is. And unlike other cloud services, we know where our data is with Microsoft. I didn't do it in purple. Access. So having access all the time, like I said before, is another key thing for us. And Microsoft were able to give me better uptimes than I could give our business. I was frank with the business, and I said to them, I can't guarantee you that these servers, we don't have any clustering, can't afford to invest in these servers and duplicate everything. I can't guarantee you that these are going to be up 24/7. I could give them about 95% guarantee that these things will be up. Microsoft gave us a 99.9% guarantee that these services are going to be available. We've had minor outages, nowhere near the sort of outages I would have had if I had to service pack our machine and reboot it. If I had to do a Windows updates, reboots, 15 minutes downtime, trying to pick a time to do that when our guys are overseas. It's a long rugby season, as everyone probably knows. It's from February till November. The only real time I can do upgrades and are around December and January. So ultimately, the business agreed that with the way I looked at things and the way we're going to approach it, and we decided that we would move to BPOS. Does anyone have any questions, by the way? I want to try and make this as informal as possible. I don't want to be talking all the time. If anyone's got any questions. It's going to be formal then. Right, so the BPOS migration. Right. So when we decided that we were going to look at moving to the cloud, I did my homework, like everyone should do. Well, I spent months and months going to conferences where Ben was at and where Nick was at, and listened to all the people that knew what they were talking about. They're talking about the hype of the cloud. I was like, is this thing real? Is it not real? Talked to my peers, went out to my partners and talked to my partners and tested the waters to see what solutions were out there. I'm sure you've heard of all the different types of solutions. There's tons of them. Looked at ones in New Zealand, looked at ones out of New Zealand, went to legal conferences which put me to sleep, but they were pretty informative. Trawled the net. Obviously there's heaps of information on the net, so I went through blogs, went through forums and all that sort of stuff, and talked to everyone that I could. So after all of that work, I came up with BPOS was a solution for us. My users didn't want to change a client, so some ways we're going to have to change in some solutions you have to change a client, but that was one of the things that they didn't want to do. So we settled with BPOS, and I've never looked back. It's been a great experience. It's been successful. I haven't had any worry at all. Like sometimes you choose a solution for your business and you're like, shit, did I make the right decision? Is it going to work for me? Is it going to work for us? But I've no doubt that I've made the right decision, and Microsoft haven't paid me to say that. Another reason why I chose it is because we're moving from Exchange 2007 to hosted Exchange 2007. It was easy as pie. And I'll tell you now how easy it is to do it. So you set up a BPOS account online, you log onto the pretty website, sign in with a Windows Live ID account, pay some money, and you've got some accounts there to go. You set up a server back at work, a BPOS server, and you sync your Active Directory up into the cloud. And that obviously syncs all your users up in the cloud. You choose a user you want to migrate, click on that user and say activate the account. It sends you a username and password, and you click migrate on the BPOS server, and it sends all their mail, contacts and calendar up into the cloud, and then you log onto the user's machine with that username and password, and it sucks it all back down. It's as easy as that. A few other little things, but I don't have time to go into. But the first user took 22 hours when we first started, and that was a 120 meg mailbox. And we're like, what the hell? It's going to be till Christmas until we finish this thing. That's not good enough for us. So we talked to Microsoft, talked to Telecom, we reinstalled our server, and magically, out of the blue, 2 weeks later, we migrated another mailbox, and it was 5 minutes. So we don't know what happened, we don't really care. As long as it was working for us, we didn't really mind. So from then on, it was every mailbox we migrated around about 100 to 200 meg was about 5 to 10 minutes to get that mailbox up into BPOS, and then it has to come back down. So there's bandwidth concerns that I'm sure you'll ask about later, but that's only initially, so it didn't really worry us. Little issues I had, the meeting room calendars, some of them, well not the calendars, but some of the entries went missing and weren't associated with users anymore. But I hear that Microsoft have upgraded the migration tool, and that seems to work perfectly now. We started in December to migrate people across, and that's when it took 22 hours, and we're like, man, this isn't ideal. So that took an extra 2 weeks on top of that, and then I migrated myself across and over Christmas and used it over Christmas. So before I gave it to my users, I don't want to have them having any problems while they're away on their holidays. Then started with another 5 users and another 5 users, and then by the end of February we had everybody across. It only took that long. We could have done it all in January, but it only took that long is because people aren't in the office all the time, as I've mentioned before, so we had to get them to send our laptops to us because we wanted to do it manually for them. The minimal user interruption, so when you're migrating all the stuff across, that's all in the background. When you get the username and password, you log on their machine on a single sign-on client. It'll configure Outlook for you automatically and Office Communicator and connect you to SharePoint, and they start working basically straight away. Probably 5 to 10 minute downtime, 30 minutes for some users if they have other issues, but it automatically configures everything. And you get your new emails first, and then it just starts downloading the rest of all your stuff behind that, so they can keep up to date with any new emails coming in. Any questions about that? Don't be scared. User experience. I'm sure you'll want to create the best user experience for all your users, right? And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible for them to do their jobs as I can make possible. So to do that, BPOS have made it easy for them to connect. Like I said, with a single sign-on, as soon as they got an internet connection, they're online. They can do whatever the hell they please with their email, with SharePoint, with Office Communicator. It's just easy. And it's the same in the office. So when they come in the office, they have the same experience as they're out of the office. So that saved me support calls because if they're having an issue in the office, they're going to have it out of the office, so I need to fix it there. But they have the exact same experience when they're in the office as when they're out of the office. The online presence has been really helpful. So we didn't have Office Communicator before, and with BPOS you get Office Communicator, a cut down version, so you can do online calls, send text messages, or whatever you like. But the full package isn't available yet. I hear in the pipeline it's going to come out next year, and there may be some links in with your VoIP phone system or something like that. But I'm yet to see any proof. We had SharePoint previously in-house, but we didn't give people access to that out of the building because we weren't SharePoint experts and we'd configured it by ourselves and we're like, man, I hope this thing is reliable. And two, because we didn't want to open up firewalls and all that sort of stuff. But with having access anywhere, people have really started utilising that. So the All Black management team, for example, they now use it for their document storage. They do they have a calendar, so the players know where to go. They've got a calendar specific for the management team, so they know where to go. And that's all synced, and that all just works all through the cloud. So that has let us use SharePoint more actively. And we've just moved, about 4 months ago when Office 2010 came out, we moved to Office 2010. And with that, you get SharePoint Workspace. So what SharePoint Workspace does is syncs directories from SharePoint to your local computer. So you can imagine when you connect into SharePoint in the cloud, opening a document, it's not as quick as it would be on site. So synchronizing those back to your desktop or to your laptop means that they can click on those, make the changes they want to without having to wait for it to download, and then click sync and then do something else because it'll synchronize it back up to their machine, up to the cloud, and then back to the other guy's machine. So being able to share that information, is that a bomb? We haven't lost the World Cup yet. User issue for the first month or so came my users noticed that bigger emails were taking longer than they were when it was hosted on site. Obviously because it has to come down from up there, but they got used to that. It wasn't a major concern. They still get the email. They're just getting it 10, maybe 15 seconds later than they would have been if it was hosted on site. So not a massive issue for us. That calendar issues, like I mentioned before, and there were minor speed issues, but the majority of those with people with more than one mailbox. So if we had one user managing 7 people's mailboxes, their calendars and all that sort of stuff. So that was fixed when we went to Office 2010, and Outlook handles it differently. So there was no massive problems there.
Jeremy, your directory, did you have to sync your Active Directory through to their servers?
Yes, so Active Directory, we've got a BPOS server with a thing called Active Directory Sync, and that synchronises any changes you make to your Active Directory up into the cloud.
And the other thing, as you move your mailboxes, did you have to move your image DNS records as well?
Yes, so after you've migrated everyone across, to fully utilise BPOS, you change your MX record and all your mail. So when you first migrate people across, it sets up a forward in your Exchange server. So so your email is still coming into your Exchange server and then going up to the cloud because your MX record is obviously pointing to your server. So thank you for reminding me about that. And so you don't get the full benefits or you're double handing stuff basically. So your data usage is quite high until you change your MX record. So the sooner you can get people across, the better.
And the change of the MX record, how long does the effective part take?
Oh, it didn't take very long at all. We had a time to live on our MX record of, I think, 5 minutes, so it didn't take very long at all. But you don't lose any emails because they come to you and then go up there, and then as soon as it changes, everyone else is going straight up to Singapore. So you probably want to know about restoring data, and unfortunately I had 2 real cases. During the migration, there were 2 users that said it had failed on. It hadn't actually failed because the data was actually across, but it actually said that they'd failed. So I told my IT guy that I'd blame him, but it was actually me that did it. So in our Exchange server, they were still there because they hadn't been removed because it removes them. So I blimmin' well deleted the mailbox instead of just disconnecting it. So I deleted it, and then because I deleted it, it removed the entry from Active Directory, and because we were doing Active Directory syncing, the user didn't exist in Active Directory anymore, so it removed it from BPOS. So the user was completely gone. So I had to ring up the helpline and log a job and have those 2 mailboxes restored. So the process was that I had to set up those users again, so they'd still get the new emails, but all their other emails had gone, and then they'd fully restored it all, and the restore was fine. All the data was there. It just took too bloody long. took 7 days to get all that data back. So I told Microsoft that wasn't acceptable, and they'd struggle to get more customers on if that was the case. So they promised me, they told me that they'd refine their processes and got those down. So I'm still yet to test them on that, but I'll be doing one, hopefully not a forced one, hopefully a practice one.
Sorry, was that the allowed time that they had back then?
No, well,
Worst case scenario?
from what I'd read in our SLAs, it was 2 to 4 days, but they took 7, which was a bit stink. No, they didn't do us that.
It took 7 days.
Yeah, probably. No, I'm pretty sure that they don't bill you for that. That's all part of the support that they do, even though it was my fault. SharePoint. So SharePoint, I'm not sure if many of you guys are familiar with SharePoint, but SharePoint has a recycle bin for the user. So if they delete anything, it's kept in the recycle bin for 30 days, and you can configure that on SharePoint Online. Plus, it has a site recycle bin, so the administrator, which is me, has 90 days before it gets fully deleted, so you've got a good recovery time there, and you don't have to do any restores or anything like that. Right, the good and the bad. So obviously it has some jobs completed, not ideal, and that was one case. We've had a few other cases of minor issues. We had some issues with the global address book, not major issues, just a couple of meeting rooms and calendars have dropped off the global address list. They obviously have their troubleshooting processes where they try and make changes and replicate things back to machines, but the reality was it was an issue with the global address book on the server, and all they had to do was refresh that, so that was just one issue. But majority of the time, they're really good with their jobs, especially at critical jobs where there's an outage. Time zone can be a bit of a pain in the bum because their support runs from Singapore and the US. They forget that and they ring you at 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning for medium-term jobs. So a little bit annoying, but I've told them about that and they don't ring me anymore. They ring my other guy. Did you have a question or was you just talking? Sorry. No, that shows whatever the Singapore time zone is. So that doesn't cause any major issues. It's just sometimes when they accept a meeting, they're accepting for the right time, but if they're an external person, they get a little response saying the time zone that they've accepted in -12, but haven't had any issues. And daylight savings hasn't been an issue either. We went through a daylight savings change when it was hosted, and that didn't cause us any issues. The roadmap. So we all want to know what the future of BPOS is, right? And I'm keen to know what's coming out and when I'm going to be able to get my hands on it. So there's been a distinct lack of a roadmap, and some of that has been addressed at TechEd. But it'd be nice to know what you're going to get. And I've been able to find some stuff on the web that have been posted by non-Microsoft people with Exchange Online and SharePoint Online, and there's some good features coming up, which I can show you guys later if you want to come and have a chat to me. But I think they really are starting to pick up their game on the roadmap side of things, and from this TechEd event you can see that the cloud is right in the front of their minds, and they're really focusing on it, so it's sort of turned into a good thing. The help desk is very responsive and very friendly. If you have an issue, like we've had one issue when people couldn't send and that lasted for 5 minutes, and we've had issues where certain pods of people lose connection, and that's only for a few minutes. You log them out, log them back in, they must connect to a different server, so they must be having trouble with this one single server, but it doesn't ever affect anyone. We haven't had a full outage for longer than 5 minutes at all, and only one of those, and that wasn't a major concern to us at that time. Obviously, I thought it should have hit the fan, but they had it up and running really quickly. And the help desk will help you with those urgent problems. They'll stay on the phone until you've got it resolved as well, so they're really good like that. Like most help desks you talk to them and they go, okay, we'll fix that, we'll ring you back when it's fixed. But these people will go, okay, have you tried this? Okay, we are having some issues, we're getting them resolved, and they'll stay on the line and just keep you happy. So it's really good. Like I said, it's really easy to use. From a management point of view, it's really easy to manage. You can add other domains if you're adding other companies in there, and the user is perfect. Availability, like I said before, I couldn't offer anything that Microsoft offers, so 99.9% uptime, and they've well exceeded that. Like 5 minutes outage in 8 months is pretty good. Upgrades, apparently, and I haven't gone through this yet, all I have to do is tick a box and I can get Exchange 2010. So I'm really looking forward to that. And SharePoint as well, because I'm not sure if you guys know, but SharePoint is a pain in the arse to install. So being able to tick a box and get SharePoint 2010 is really appealing to me. The future of BPOS for us at New Zealand Rugby Union. So obviously I just talked about upgrading to Exchange 2010 and SharePoint 2010. Here Office Communicator is coming out as well, which bundles in live meetings. So I'm looking forward to how that works and how that can help us communicate better and maybe not let us travel, not have to travel as much. Not me, but with our team that get to travel, so that they can have meetings with their key customers. Windows Intune, I think it was Nathan Mercer, something. He talked about this yesterday, so we're really looking forward to that. Like I said, our laptops are out on the road all the time. Our guys are travelling. I think we have about 30 users that don't even come into the office, so being able to keep track of viruses that they've got. An example, yesterday I had one of the All Black management team come in, and we got alerted because they'd finally come into the office that they've had like issues with viruses from about 3 weeks ago, and we're like, well, great, now it tells us. But with this thing, we'll get alerts straight away telling us that they have a virus, and we can be proactive and we can do stuff to help them out straight away. Alerts for disk space and all that sort of stuff, so being able to know what's going on with our laptops in the field. Asset management, so looking at what software is on their machine. If they're having issues running with their machine running, we can quickly go through the software on the list and go, well, that shouldn't be on there, that's going to cause you issues, and we can sort of troubleshoot that way. Remote assistance, which is pretty key. We've had some hack systems in the past, but being able to have them click on remote assistant and get that up straight away is key. Windows updates I'm not so sure about, because obviously you'll have a lot of downloads coming into your office, so we'll work on that, but for the laptops that are definitely out of the office, we will look at using that. More bright ideas of mine are to help our other provincial unions, so our Heartland and ITM Cup provincial unions, looking at the opportunities that BPOS has given us to help support them and give them more time to focus on rugby instead of the CEO worrying about how his IT stuff's holding up, because they've all purchased Exchange servers or they have contractors come in to do work for them and they don't know if their contractor's doing the right job. So I want to try and take some of that worry away from them, and I've got a couple of test cases at the moment that I'm running through, and it's as easy as adding the domain and setting the user up. It's just as easy as that. So, and obviously migrating the data across, but we'll come across that bridge when I come to it. So some websites that I don't know if you can get a copy of this PowerPoint, or I can send you a copy or whatever, but obviously I've trawled the internet for some pages. So BPOS Tutor obviously helps you get the best out of BPOS, tells you the tips and tricks that you need to know to get everything out of it. Some blogs. This one's quite good because you can just it breaks it down to Exchange online, SharePoint online, Office Communicator and all that sort of stuff. This RSS feed was for the APAC region, so it tells you if there's any system outages or anything like that. BPOS Rocks, obviously a fan of BPOS, but there's some good stuff on there as well. And allblacks.com, I just had to throw that in there because my guy told me to. So Provoke, we're our partner of choice to help us migrate our stuff across, and they've just recently won a Microsoft Partner Award for Online Services Partner of the Year. So these guys came in and showed me the trophy, which was hidden in my black shirt right there. Pity you couldn't even drink out of it, so Microsoft might have to work on that next year. There's the guys here, Phil, Mason and Martin, and that there is not Murray from Flight of the Conchords. That's my IT guy, but he's affectionately known as Murray around the office because I set him up one day, and he had to have a nickname. So he's not going to be happy with me when I get back, I tell you. So to summarise, as I showed you, it's really easy to migrate, right? So it's easy to get up and running, it's quick, and if you have an Exchange server ready to migrate to there is really simple. implementation costs, well, you're only paying for users, so you don't have to pay for hardware. You only have to pay for the laptops that people are using. Improved users experience. I've had lots of feedback from my users. I've asked them, I'm like, honestly, and they're a real honest lot, I can tell you, they'll tell you about shit. It's been a great experience for them. Like I said, they're online, when they're connected to the internet, they're online straight away, so they're up and running. Lower IT support costs, so believe it or not, I've had less support calls because they have the same experience when they're out in the office and out of the office. The support calls have gone down, so I don't have to worry about that much anymore. And definitely do your homework. I mean, BPOS is a great solution for us. It may not be for everybody, but it's definitely worked really well for us. So look at what else is out there as well, and keep winning All Blacks. Make our job easy. That's me. So thank you for listening. Is there any questions that anyone wants to ask? None? No?
You say you're still running a file server?
Yep, we're running a file server. So
You hadn't thought of pushing all that into the cloud?
yep. So my whole goal is to have an internet connection in my office. So it's all hosted off-site. I don't have to pay for any hardware. Might lose my job, but probably not because I got to manage the contracts. But yeah, the whole goal is to have everything in the cloud, so they get the same experience for every single thing that they're doing when they're in the office or they're out of the office, and the opportunities are endless. I mean, we could even possibly use SharePoint as our file server. It does versioning, document management, and all that sort of stuff. I just have to work out how we'd do that, and we'll try that with SharePoint Workspace and see how we get on. These lights, yeah, mate. Can you have the ball? Ball's E, but I've got a question to ask, so.
Oh, okay.
That's all you came for, people, all right? Sorry, Rich McCall's not here. Yes, sir.
Data usage like over 3G for your users?
Obviously, it's high, but it'll be high no matter what they're doing because they were accessing email out of the office anyway. So with our data usage has definitely increased in our office, but it was increasing anyway because they were watching YouTube and all that sort of stuff. But we deal a lot of video at the New Zealand Rugby Union, so that was getting higher anyway. But with majority, or with 20 or 30% of my users not ever coming in the office, before email would have to come in and then go out to them, now it doesn't even come near me. I can still see it because what's going on, but it doesn't even come near me.
So have you actually outsourced all your stuff to Microsoft itself, or is it a third-party vendor that you pay to?
Oh, this BPOS stuff?
Yeah.
So we pay Microsoft for it.
It's actually Microsoft themselves.
Yeah, but Provoke helped us set it all up and get it all running.
Lessons learned, if you were to do this implementation again, would you do anything different?
It's a good question. I can't honestly say that there's anything that I would have changed. I would have probably done it a lot quicker and instead of extending it over a couple of months, I would have probably planned a little bit better to do it. But the whole thing went relatively smoothly, and I feel really good about it. To be honest, I feel really good about it where our data is. So I haven't really had many. I wouldn't change anything. No, you can't have the ball.
What about your data plans? Did you have to change that?
Yep.
So there's a significant increase in data?
Our data plans in our office, or?
Well, I suppose you had to upgrade your data plan because there's a lot of...
Yep, so I upgraded my data plan in the office, but by an extra 50 gig. But like I said, people were getting more video and stuff as well, so it's sort of hard to balance out what is actual email. But I definitely had to increase it, and I think most people will have to with the data changing the way it is these days and people getting bigger emails all the time. I think there's a 30 meg limit in size on the emails as well, but I think that can be changed. Any other questions, or are you just waiting for me to give the ball out?
Does the Active Directory replicate all the user groups and any query-based distribution groups that you might have in the Active Directory? Does it handle all that stuff?
Yeah, it does the distribution groups, and it does the all your contacts that you got set up and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, they look a little bit weird because they have a new address, but they still get to the end user.
And all the aliases and stuff?
Yeah.
If you do a password reset, how long does that take?
So We aren't doing that, and that doesn't come native with BPOS, so there's no password syncing from Active Directory to the cloud. There is a tool through a company called MessageOps that you can run, and it synchronises your Active Directory passwords with the cloud passwords. So we've got 2 different sets of passwords, but it's not a problem because they can just change them when they're on the road. In the past, people can't change their passwords when they're on the road because they can't connect because their password has expired. So it's sort of resolved more issues than it's caused.
And it's the same, like you say, it's the same experience in the office as it is out, so there's no confusion.
Yeah, there's no confusion.
It just becomes
Yep.
status quo for them.
Yep, exactly. Any other hard, challenging questions? Right, I'll give you this ball then. Question time. How many games have the New Zealanders won on the trot?
16. 14. 16. 14.
Who said 14? Yep. You over there. Sorry, your friend already got one, mate. Disclaimer, I hope I don't break your nose. Oh, good running onto it, good hands out, perfect. So once again, guys, thank you very much for listening to hear me talk. If you want to come and have a chat to me, feel free, or even if you want to come to our offices in Wellington, if you're ever down there, feel free to pop in and I'll show you guys around.
what's the strategic direction for us, and how we use the user geo spatial architecture to enterprise.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Matti Seikkula. I'm CIO in East Spatial. We are an integration company specializing in geospatial integration pretty much across the board. What I will be talking about today is we do believe that geospatial, everybody should have that in their organization. And what I'm trying to do, what we're trying to do is try to prove you why you cannot live without it anymore. This will be sort of be done in 3 parts, so I'm going to start and go through a couple of examples on how and what you do nowadays, where world is going to, what people are doing with geospatial now. And then I'm going to hand it over to Nissa Karanna-Veera from ESR, who's going to tell you a little bit about what they do. And then we're going to end up with something slightly different, so I'm not going to tell you anything about that yet, but you'll see in the end. That clear is pretty interesting. Anyways, okay, so 2 of us, as we said. This is going to be really graphically intense, though. There are some bits where I just tell you not to kind of switch off and don't try to follow the slides too closely, but I'll tell you when we're there. So start with some myths. So the idea here is that there are a couple of myths that we picked up about geospatial that we're trying to break. So first one is the obvious one, which is what it's all about, that geospatial is not relevant to my business. I'm a bit of a geek. I like all this kind of geeky Star Trek type of stuff. So we've been doing geospatial for years. I mean, some of us long time, and we've sort of known that there's something special. And IT is now ready. It's easy enough now to start. Like Ed's presentation yesterday, geospatial there's nothing special about it. It can be part of your enterprise IT like everything else is. So the great secret there is that geospatial is everywhere. So consider this nice little picture of Wellington. Nice, as it is always in Wellington like this. This is sort of how you see the world. But what we actually see is this. There's geospatial practically everywhere. Some aspect of business sector that is using geospatial somewhere within our world. So maybe it's sort of the time that people start thinking about all these opportunities and how to actually tap into this. So this is a slide that was provided to us courtesy of Eagle, our partners. It was done by one of the Esri guys who came over from US, and as you do, nothing else to do in the evenings, this is sort of how you spend your time. So how are we going to do this? This is sort of 10 business sectors across the board, and then all of these have about 60 subsectors underneath. So that should sort of cover pretty much anything you can think of. What we're going to do is I'm not going to actually go through and stop on any of these maps. So there's about 120 maps here, right? So I'm just going to skip through them quickly. The idea here is not to concentrate to anything specific. It's more about proving you that there is a solution across the board for pretty much anything you can think of. And you will see your sector flipping by at some stage, and there you go. So starting with the traditional ones like banking, facilities management, insurance, media, press, retail, real estate, defense has all sorts of different things. So these are all done with geospatial information systems, showing and proving and finding out information about a specific system and just looking at it in the geographical sense. So no matter where you go to, what you look at, whether it's health, whether it's government, it's mapping and charting is the obvious one. So these guys are doing all sorts of interesting things. Natural resources like mining, which is quite important here in New Zealand as well. Climate, how that changes, emergency management, etc. So like I said, I'm not going to stop on any of these. So just skipping through them one by one. eventually we are there. There you go. 120 maps in less than 2 minutes. But the idea, like I said, was that across the board, geospatial is everywhere. So I would say that that's a fact, not a myth. Second bit is about maturity. So, like I said, geospatial has been along for a long time. It's been used a lot in the desktop kind of environments. But as eSpatial, for example, for 12 years now, we've been doing enterprise IT level solutions that just open that one up. So I'll do it as a history, as a teacher kind of lesson. Here's a little application, Windows mobile application, and I'll just show you a couple of things what it looked like. Allowed you to do searching, allowed you to do satellite imagery, allowed you to look at regions, you know. You can go really close in the map. It was really fast. So essentially this was enabling the company geospatial via mobile device. There was no difference from what you could actually see with it. All the maps came back within 2 seconds, so it was actually pretty fast. Could deal with resolutions down to 10 centimeters, satellite imagery, all that kind of stuff. Customer data was refreshed every 30 seconds. Visits for like nice visits to do sort of a field level capture and all that kind of stuff. GPS used to locate yourself, all that kind of stuff. Users loved it. So what actually went wrong with this? Well, when was that released? This one we did 8 years ago. So that Windows Mobile was Windows Mobile 2002. What was its biggest downfall? Well, you can guess that. Kind of works very nice when you're in urban areas. You go anywhere a little bit further away. No connectivity. Too bad. The whole thing cost to build about 80K. So it wasn't an expensive project or anything like that. If you did that today, so what would be its biggest problem today? Any guesses? Nothing's changed. Connectivity. So New Zealand is still backwards on that. How we would mitigate that is offline and synchronization. So systems now actually allow you to have an offline. You can download the data into your devices and do it that way. If we were to do that, we could probably do this with 50K. Biggest reason is that there's actually products available. You can buy out of the box products, just configure it. Actually, some of the organizations who are using mapping systems probably already have it. They just haven't tapped into it. 8 years ago, yep, it was immature. Definitely not today. Here's another one. This one was actually used for quite a while. It was used for retail planning. It was quite successfully used for finding out places to put retail systems. It was used by Oceanic Retail Company, about 10 countries. Main decision tool for planning and forecasting. It was kind of the first time ever you have business intelligence and location intelligence solutions together, shown and supporting each other. Full location intelligence, no need for internal specialists, reasonably easy to use. Successful business and right choices. Even the sales team knew how to use that. So what went wrong there? Well, start again the same way. When was this out? This was done 10 years ago. So again, quite a long time ago. Problem with it was that we have it centralized in New Zealand, and the New Zealand bandwidth to the other countries wasn't the best. So absolutely brilliantly fast in New Zealand, but Aussies hated it. What did it cost to develop? It was about 150,000 at the time. Same doing that today. The problem won't be the bandwidth anymore. Things are done differently now. You download a lot less across the board. You can minimize it, compress it. The problem is that now we have so much data that all of these we have systems with terabytes of data in there, and it's sort of growing rapidly. But there's a way to mitigate the mapping data, and we use tile cases. So we can case it all for you, and only like 5% of your data is painted on top of it. So it kind of works quite well that way. Cost for that now today would be around 100K. So it's not actually that hard to do. That was too early, absolutely. But they did use it for many, many years. Okay, why would you not do this today? Yeah, so old stuff. You need to start from somewhere. That's a 1995 map. They look kind of like this. I think this is one of the hurricanes ravaging the US coastline. 1995 is when the spreadsheets, pie charts came into the Excel spreadsheets. 96, they were already using them in mapping. So you had maps out there which were actually tying the pie charts together pretty much straight away. So you'd sort of think that they were pretty reactive there. No, they were actually proactive. This is a French map that was produced in 1890, so they had pie charts already then. Probably the knights there going on. Okay. Anyways, pie is an old trick. We kind of done that and tied it together years and years ago. So all of the mapping systems there's a whole lot of experience on geospatial specialists on how to do different kinds of things that you haven't even seen. So point to this is that geospatial is mature, has been for a long, long time now. So maybe it's something you need to start looking into. So bust that. It's definitely mature. Geospatial integration. Again, it's not special. That's I suppose the point. So Microsoft definitely believes on this geospatial integration. The support is already there for SQL Server Spatial. You know, SSRS is supporting that now. SSIS, by supporting the standards like well-known text, we can actually use that to push the geometries through. SSAS is something that's happening there in the background, not probably as fast as the others yet, but definitely happening. Bing Maps has been around now for a while. And then you have all these development tools which are just perfect for us. Silverlight, Visual Studio, the whole .NET framework, Moz. We're using Moz now a lot to actually marry the maps and the charts together. And even tying it like address validation and things like that into Microsoft CRM. So we've done that for a couple of customers in New Zealand. Office on actually starting to push the mapping information there. We have a solution for 2 of our customers where the whole mapping interface gets pushed to Microsoft Excel, and you can actually use it there with the spreadsheets to look at your data yourself. And Microsoft has alliances with Esri Mapit, Esri Bing, so you can actually push the imagery into the Bing imagery to the Esri systems and to map info as well. Couple of customers specifically for Microsoft environments of ours. So there's a lot of other integrators as well there. So pretty much most of the government organizations, for example, use it. Commercially starting to use it more. So using SQL Server Spatial, there's a list of couple. Using addressing in the SQL Server database, there's a couple for you. Bing, you know, that's sort of starting to happen more. And then you have others who use Visual Studio.net and, you know, tie it together. They might be using a different database or they might be using some different things, but they can actually tie it all together. So some of these local examples, and yes, I know it's a Google map. Don't look at that. So this is our product, an addressing product that lets you do predictive typing into the address. It's a smart one, and it basically shows you where it is. Or you can do a corner of which works for kind of rural areas where you don't have as good addressing. And then you can bring the data into Bing as well. So in this particular case, just shows you a little address point on top of the 3D map there. New Zealand Transport Agency has been a customer of ours for years. So what I've done is in this is I've actually, a lot of these examples, I've dragged them from the net. So these are all kind of images that are available in the internet. rather than tapping into any specific secrets. Because that's the only problem with geospatial is that a lot of organizations use it for give them competitive edge for things. So there are a lot of things that you can't, like for example, we can't show anything that police does, and they have 5 of our applications in there, so which is a shame. So they have interfaces for searching, they have interfaces for sort of group level, they have hundreds and hundreds of layers of data that they group into layer controls. You have MAF has had their climate change forest allocation schemes going on for a long time where you can actually draw polygons in the maps and say what your forests are, and then you know, edit them and view it and do it as a summary report. TPK is showing their information in on the Mari land in the web, and that's actually a public website. You can go have a play. It's Bing solution. Nice when you put the 3D imagery in and sort of overlay it with other layers, and it kind of gives you quite interesting look and feel. Ministry of Fisheries has been doing this for years, so we had originally helped them to build their first systems. One of our architects has been involved with them on defining the .NET solutions, so they have all this information about the fish species, so this is also a public system that is available for you to view. Express Couriers, we did a demonstration on this last year, so they've been using their system quite happily for a while now, managing their courier routes. Farmers Mutual Group is a new customer of ours, so we've done some work on there, starting to show you what you can do with insurance on those areas. And New Zealand Statistics is not a customer of ours, except for the fact that we were advising them when they were building the system. So this is a pure Bing solution where you can actually go and look at the census data in context with the Bing maps. And the last one is brand new of ours. So this is a Silverlight technology, ASP.NET 4 solution for historic places trust, where the mapping is actually integrated into their system. So it's not a map-centric one, but actually map is just one of the tabs where you can view the information about the historic places and define whether you know, if you want to do a project somewhere there, whether that's going to be affected by it. Allows you to do redlining, allows you to draw polygons around and, you know, save them in the database and all that kind of neat stuff that Silverlight lets you do easily. So absolutely very easy to integrate now. Every year it becomes easier and easier. And most of it is via spatial services and these interfaces that we have in place. So the fourth myth is that geospatial is a niche market. Now, if you asked me this a year ago, I would say yes, it is. But we've done a lot of digging on that, and things have actually changed. So I started looking into what's the definition of a niche market. So narrow range across industries. Well, we kind of proved that already with the first fact there, and it's that, you know, it's not really narrow range at all. It's all over the business sectors. Specialist and hard to integrate. Well, we actually can integrate it with everything, so that's not true either. So I have two left, that there aren't many vendors supporting it, and then that it's financially small business. So if you look at those, so times have changed in the last year. So it used to be just traditional vendors who did this. So like our friends in Esri and MapInfos and, you know, Integraphs, etc. And then integrators like ourselves and Eagle, you know, organizations merged. Open source introduced a whole bunch of new players into this market. Google introduced a whole bunch of mashups and, you know, people starting to use that. And then .NET and Bing and Codeplex is a lot more again. OpenStreetMaps, open layers. So we actually have a huge number of organizations doing geospatial now. And there's more and more coming all the time. So I think that's a fact that there's actually several levels of support for geospatial now. So that kind of takes care of that. Small business. This is a Lean statement of intent. That's available in the net as well. Geospatial impact for New Zealand GDP, which is 133 billion, is 1.2 billion. So, and with wider better use within business, you could get another 500 million on that. So yeah, okay, 1 to 1.5%. Doesn't sound, actually sounds like a niche market to me. But there's the first issue with that is that that's more like the traditional systems that actually talks about. That doesn't take into account the cloud, like a long tail systems like crowdsourcing, address value, anything without a map, for example, that won't be included. More importantly, I tried to actually find some examples on how much of the New Zealand IT covers, the GDP. There isn't any information available for that. But what you can find is that there's been some studies in EU countries done that typically IT is 5% of your GDP. So 5% of GDP and geospatial is 1% of GDP. So I think, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. Of course, the same applies for the IT. That would be traditional IT and not all the sort of fringe areas that are covered. But I think what you can see from there is that the geospatial sector of IT is actually reasonably large and it's growing rapidly. So definitely is something that you need to think about, which kind of caters for the fact number 6. So, okay, so we sort of busted those myths. I hope I did. But we're sort of missing one sector. It's the social networking kind of stuff that's happening everywhere now. So I thought that I'd just go through some of the, I suppose, more not so traditional things that are happening right now. So you start to get a bit of a picture of what's going on there. So Facebook actually now has several geospatial mapping interfaces in there that people use and communicate together. So does Twitter. So you can actually see where people tweet, not just get a little text message on your device. Photo bucket lets you kind of tie your photos into the system. So does Flickr, so you can actually see geographically where they come from. And you saw some of that on the keynote, and that's sort of old news, I suppose. And Picasa does the same one. So all of this is a geographical information, Sea-Dragon as well. So where it starts getting interesting is then all these other things that are happening. So augmented reality is a big thing right now. If you look into the Gartner hype cycle, that's really happening this year. It's a real success story. Everybody's building around that. So, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but the idea is that you view the world through your mobile device and you can get all sorts of additional information about the sites that you visit, which is quite neat. So how it works is your camera recognizes a place by the image. Compass and GPS are used to figure out location, direction of the view. Then you put an internet to figure out information about it. And then you mobile overlays all that information on. So you get this view. You have actually a version for fishermen. There's a version for hunters. Of course, it doesn't work in New Zealand because you don't have any coverage, but you get the picture. And you have a version for iPhone. So then you have this tube augmented reality apps as well, which let you do that kind of information. And then there are sort of other weird things. So this one I like. This is a GPS minicap. It's quite successful in London. So basically looks like that. So consider this. Let's say you were drunk and disorderly somewhere and just want to go home. It surely happens to everybody, not just me. So you find it really hard to talk, so even harder for us foreigners, I suppose. You're very tired. Hey, press the button and the taxi will come and take you home. How perfect is that? You don't have to worry about the thing, just, off you go. So this is a really weird one. Okay, so you're looking for a friend, a special friend or whatever. What if your mobile told you and you were close to a good one? Saying, yeah, okay, it's opposite side of the street and you can start the conversations, with your mobile and go on from there. Nah, I'm getting too old for this, I think. But, that's all geographical, tied to the location. Or social networks like Foursquare, they do really weird things with this. They have games going on right now where you highlight a place and then you can become a king of that place. So you go and travel, you know, somebody's a king of that place. When the king arrives, everybody gets a little tweet on their mobile device to say, hey, king just arrived, king gets a free beer. And then they've done a version there where you can make somebody a false king. And then the guy comes in, you know, excited because he's going to get a free beer and everybody laughs at him and he doesn't. So go figure. It's a lot of youngsters things, these, I suppose, but it's all working with the geographical and location and, you know, geospatial. Tag what? So another one lets you tag information. Do it that way. What's this one? This one was Piccadilly Circus. So basically, this is a great one. So you have your GPS device telling you where the nearest tube stations are. And then you can also look at where the tubes actually go, so you can pull the tube map into it. And then when you're close enough to the actual station, it changes to augmented reality. And now it's actually showing you where you go into the tube station. That's pretty cool. You use it for construction management, 3D industry training, you know, the typical kind of things that you've seen. This is a great one. So we need one of these in New Zealand as well. Spot crime. So, you know, you can put in, and you just saw somebody steal somebody's bag, you put it into the device and say, hey, I just spotted some crime. And then some other bugger there, tourist, for example, comes in and says, show me all the crime in the last hour, and it shows it everywhere. And they go, oh, far out, this is not the right place to be. This is a good one too, car finder. So yeah, okay, you have a big car park. Your wife parked your car. You have no idea where your car is. So this one actually tells you. That's where it is. Crowdsourcing, this is a good one too. So you want to know where your kids or your old folks are. So it tells you, that your old dad who's getting a bit senile doesn't know where he is anymore. Well, we can find him. We can actually see where he was, what he's been doing. So this one's been just going around in circles. So that's all right. And then you can track criminals or maybe teenagers. Put in it works like this. You just put it on your ankle kind of thing and they can't get it off. I thought that was hilarious. That would work well. Okay. And then you have some borderline stuff. So you have your photosynth, which lets you actually go into really close and look at information. So, all the photos, and then you can 3D, you can find it and zoom in. This is a really weird one. So you know how you have your site counters. You used to have your site counters or websites. These guys, this is their business. They provide you this revolver map. So you go to the website, it actually shows you the point in the map where people are coming to view it. And it's like a 3D globe kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. News. So you can look at where the big news are in the globe and sort of find that. You can see the spike there. That's obviously something horrible happened somewhere. And then Windows 7 has a whole lot of this built in. Finishing this, some really weird ones. This is the orb. 7,400 LCD panels. It's a real globe thing. It's showing a map and things that happen on that. So it's something that somebody's working on. Photosynth we already talked about. Surface, obviously, you've seen that. That's brilliant. And doing things with that. This is a high-res mobile, 1200 by 800 resolution screen. So that's quite exciting for geospatial people. Paper-thin monitors, so they're playing with those now. So the idea is that these can have a mapping system basically built into it, and you can use it kind of instead of paper. Gloves and glasses, obviously. 3D LCDs are already happening now. Virtual computers. I don't know if anything ever came out of this, but it was a cool idea. So you had a little pen which actually gives you the screen and it gives you an infrared keyboard. So, you carry it with you, set it up, and off you go. Great idea. Okay, this is a weird one. So you'd kind of think that this one here is about making sure that you can find where your kids are and, keeping them safe and stuff. No, it's not. It's a car navigation system. So you put it on top of your car there, and you tell it, voice recognition, you tell it where you want to go. And it starts telling you, turn left, and it actually has limbs moving. Turn left, turn right. Whoever can, that's pretty cool. Or these are shoes. You want to go jogging, you have no idea this is a new place. Like, let's say we come to Auckland, we don't really know. Want to go and have a run, so you tell these where you want to go. It'll tell you the route, and actually you have a little thingy on your ear when you're running. It tells you now turn left, actually guides you through your jogging exercise. So this one, reverse geocaching. You have family jewels there. How that opens is you set it up to only open in one location. So you can't open it anywhere else except that. So you give it to somebody and say, it's been set up so that when you get home, it'll open there. So that's when you can open it up. So that's called reverse geocaching. Go figure. Ski goggles. So you're coming down the hill, and it says, this works, this is augmented reality. So it actually tells you that don't go left, that's not a good idea. There's a bit of a rave in there, and must be useful. So, conclusion before I hand to Nishaka. Geospatial is definitely mainstream now. It's mature, it's well supported. What will happen in the next 5 years? Well, come have a look at that. That's hype cycles. It's an interesting place. It shows you the last 3 hype cycles, new technology, what's actually happening. You can see how things change and what happens to them. Basically, what we do know is that people are coming with innovative new ways of using geospatial all the time. And why not? It's great fun. It's it's very graphical. It's great stuff to do. Tomorrow, there won't be anything where there won't be something geospatial, whether it's a smart device or hardware, software, cloud. Cloud is happening for geospatial systems as well. And it's going to have a talk about the Microsoft Azure and geospatial tomorrow, so that's definitely worth going to look. Maybe it's time you start looking at it if you don't yet. There's a lot of organizations who do this and can help you out on this and get you started. And I'll hand it over to Nishaka now.
Thanks, Mary. That is inspiring. Before I start, I would ask a question. Can you think of any industry where we cannot use geospatial? Just hold on to your thoughts. Okay, my name is Nishaka Ranavira. So I'm the team leader for software development at ESR. I will briefly talk about ESR, what we do, what's unique to ESR, IT systems and technologies that we use to deliver our science. Finally, the strategic direction and where the GIS will fit into the enterprise architecture of ESR. So ESR is one of the 8 Crown Research Institutes in New Zealand and was established in 1992. It's owned by the New Zealand government and reports to 2 shareholding ministers, Minister of Finance and Minister of Research and Research, Science and Technology. It is set up as a limited liability company and runs as a self-sustaining business. So ESR's mission is to protect people and their environment through science. Hence, most of our work is for public good and public benefit. And for the same reason, we are well known for working with bad bugs and bad buggers. So we have about 400 staff across 4 science centers. The science centers are located in Mount Albert, Auckland, Christchurch, the Kenepuru in Wellington, and the newest one is the the Wallaceville in Wellington. We're a partner organization at INCIBIT, where we do a lot of human biosecurity and chemical forensics. Great. What do? We deliver essential scientific services supporting New Zealand government's public health, food safety, criminal justice systems. We do science underpinning security, community security through forensic science. We are the sole provider of independent forensic services to New Zealand police. We manage the New Zealand National DNA Data Bank. We do crime scene investigation, evidence recovery, DNA profiling, DNA matching. We also do blood and breath alcohol testing for driving. So if you've got caught, it's not actually ESR police, but we do the testing on behalf of police. Toxicology, human biosecurity, and all. So the forensic services are actually not limited to New Zealand. We have provided our forensic services and the expert systems around forensic services to Royal Thai Police and Malaysian police. We also do science underpinning public health, areas like communicable disease and surveillance, environmental health, food safety, water quality. So ESI is the principal science advisor to Ministry of Health, and we provide scientific services to MidSafe, Pharmac, Customs, Department of Corrections, DHPs, and various other government organizations. We use a range of Microsoft products and tools to deliver these expert systems and the science to the clients. Most of our expert systems are developed using C# or ASP.NET, and we use SQL as the backend database. So we use Visual Studio as a development tool, reporting services, analysis services, integration services. We use MOS as a collaboration tool because we collaborate, we do a lot of collaboration with the other partner organizations, other CRIs. And most interestingly, we use a combination of .NET and ArcGIS to deliver some of the GIS capabilities on some of the surveillance systems. Episerve is one of them. It's a secure web-based application developed in somewhere around 2005. So ESR hosts the National Notifiable Disease Surveillance Database on behalf of the ministry. Basically, it collates notifiable disease information on a real-time or closer to real-time basis from the public health services. And case demographic is one of the key data fields collected within Episerve. Episerve is developed in ASP.NET with some server-side JavaScripts and use the SQL as the backend database for transactional and for data warehousing. This is a forms-based application, so we use Microsoft InfoPath forms to capture data. During the last year's swine flu pandemic, we used Episerve as a base and developed another web application called PANDA, stands for Pandemic Minimum Data Set, for Ministry of Health, to help them to plan and resource management on a pandemic situation. So in both Episerve and PANDA, we display geospatial information in form of a map, and these maps are application centric. So as you can see, these maps are hosted in a .NET application, and it's got two background layers, a context layer and a boundary layer. The boundary layer is the medical authority boundaries. For example, the DHBs or public health units or the territorial authorities. So the user can select which boundaries they want to have. And then on top of that, you have a dynamic data access layer. So it is directly talking to the database and pulling the data on a real-time basis to display the geospatial information. Users can select the data that they want to display on the map, and it will bring the data and display it on the data layer. The users can select a region on the map, and then it will display all the cases within that region. And also, if you want to drill down further, you can select a particular case, and you can see all the details of that case. Didimo is another example. Didimo was developed to collect, manage, and report on the Didimo sampling data. Once again, it is similar to Episerve in terms of maps. We got two background layers, and the boundary layer, instead of the medical authorities, we have a rivers and lakes. And once again, you can select the region and display the detail or the sites. A site in a site is a location where a sample is collected from, and you can record the GPS coordinates against the site, and then view the site on a map. So this is a close-up view of an unaffected site. So as you see, we have quite a number of applications developed to with the GIS capability, but all of them are developed in a disconnected way, and it's very, very difficult to produce consolidated business intelligence. For example, Episerve holds all the geospatial information for notifiable disease, while Didimo is holding all the geospatial information for Didimo affected lakes and rivers. So ESR wants to be the innovative leading science provider to New Zealand and also to Asia Pacific region. So they have come up with 5 strategic initiatives, and one of them is to deliver intelligent information management systems, and GIS is a major part of that. So what we have done is ESR, in partnership with eSpatial, Matty and his team, developed a geospatial architecture for ESR. And our vision is to protect people and their environment through efficient and effective use of geospatial data and technologies. And we have identified 5 key EA components around this. The first one is the business architecture. So to improve ESR decision making by incorporating location-based approaches and data. So then the data architecture, provide ESR and partners with geospatial data. Then the applications architecture, again to provide ESR and the partners the applications and the web services that they need to analyze and interpret geospatial data. Then the technology, implement an enterprise-wide technical infrastructure to support the applications and the web services. Now, this data application and technology, it's very important not only for ESR, but also all the partner agencies and to the general public. Then the most important thing is the governance. establish an effective governance structure for setting up the priorities for the geospatial data and the technologies that we use. So finally, once we identified these EA components, we managed to come up with the, or map them on the current enterprise architecture. So we have got the enterprise spatial services runs parallel to the standardized reporting and the management, and also the data management. And most importantly, the consolidated and centralized spatial database so that you can do more effective business intelligence. So thank you, and I'll hand you back over to Matti.
So as you can see, there's a system that's showing that's a strategy on fully enabling geospatial within your enterprise IT, and in ESR's case, it's all .NET except for the mapping engine, which is Esri. Okay, I'll skip through that. Right, this is the third part. So we're going to do something slightly different. So I always like bribing people. So I have about 3-4 gig memory sticks there. Now what I'm going to do, this is sort of instead of the Q&A, but it is Q&A, but it's slightly different. It's actually we ask you. So what I want to do, first of all, I'm gonna need some help here. So I'm gonna get if you can get Ed coming over. So Ed is the principal program manager for SQL Server Spatial from Seattle, and Jay is Eagle's Esri evangelist, aren't you? Something like that. So the idea here, this is how this works. Like I said, there's some prices there. This is how it works. We want you to tell us why your organization does not need geospatial. So, you know, why is not needed? There's one, if you have a good enough reason or not enough brave attempters, we'll give you a prize. There's one rule. It can't be one division. It has to be the whole organization. You know, like, surely there are divisions who don't need geospatial, but it's about your organization. So why wouldn't your organization need that? Now, we're going to make it slightly easier for you. So we're going to switch off saying you need address validation, because that's kind of obvious. You know, like you have customers and you need address validation. So we can't use that one. We can use what the value add could be, though. So that's how it works. So these guys here can help. We'll come up with lots of reasons, I'm sure. Or if not, there you go. Who wants to start?
I work for a finance company, or a bank, should we say. So we're taking the address validation out of play, okay? We only have 33 branches throughout the country, 300 staff. We run everything by the seat of our pants, obviously. Small organisation. I'm being a devil's advocate here. I can actually see a need for this, but I want you to tell me why.
Fair enough. Who wants to start, guys?
Well, I'll just take a quick start. You have to pardon me, my voice was non-existent Sunday night. It is at least existent right now, barely. Too much talking at Tech Ed Australia. The Aussies, they just love to talk. So you've got customer locations, right?
Yes.
And you lend these people money, probably, right? And these people live someplace, and where they live, you probably can have information about the general socioeconomic status of those areas, level of education, and so on. And with that, I'll let Jay take over.
Sure. So I'll add on to that. It's actually a very good point, because I was just about to get to that stage. At our recent roadshow, one of the things we showcased. So for those that are I work for Eagle, but we're basically Esri in New Zealand, and we represent the Esri products in the country. So your question about how you could use geospatial technology in banking, we showcased an example where we utilized GIS tools to carry out site location analysis. Now let's take a really good example here. Let's say you know where all your customers are. Excuse me. You have the addresses for your customers. You know where all your stores are. Let's carry out an analysis to show me all the customers that are within, say, 20 minutes drive time from my particular bank. Straight away, you've already confined your, at least you've got a nice result to show you which customers fall outside the 20-minute drive time and which fall inside. Then you start looking at that a little bit further. Let's take, for example, putting in weather. What effect does the weather have on certain areas and the customer's ability to get to those banks? Factor those in and apply certain ratios to say, hey, that's going to slow down a particular customer, or put barriers in place, I should say, whether it be weather or any other sort of attributes that might block a customer getting to a particular bank. Then take the other scenario of where should we put a new bank? Where should we put new ATMs around the country? We know where our customers are. Let's say, hey, here's some potential locations for banks. Now, you might think those up or go, that ATM looks pretty busy, but in practice, the customer has to drive 30 minutes to actually get there because, there's a number of one-way streets around there. If you put that through the system, have a road network in the background, put in your 20-minute drive time impedance, and actually run the solve, it will tell you the optimum positions of where you should put your different banks or your ATMs, and where the optimal locations for customers for them to easily get to. So that's one example of using site location analysis. There's a number of other examples about carrying out analysis on how the ATMs are used and how the banks are performing, and carrying out market share analysis around that using geospatial technology. But yeah, there's a lot others, and we could get into a lot more in there as well.
Couple of bullets. Customer segmentation. So NZ Post has an data set called Genius. I don't know if you've heard of that, but puts a segment on top of all your customers, so you can figure out what type of people are your customers. Yep. Benefiting sites or competition, and what kind of an impact that has to your customers. So, you have a lot of reasons to use geospatial. Next.
Online gambling website. Purely electronic around the world. Different countries have different laws. If I found out that I'm dealing with people where it's illegal to gamble online, it's better to be ignorant rather than risk knowingly breaking the law. How would knowing my customers are operating somewhere they shouldn't be?
That is a good one, actually. There you go, guys.
So, is that on? Okay. So, obviously, I think you answered your own question, which is you need to know where your customers are, and so you can obey the law, right?
Well, no, it's legal in New Zealand. It's not legal where they are. So, what I don't know, ignorance is bliss to some extent. So, I can take their money without knowing they're breaking the law.
Yeah, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good. That is pretty good. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is at least people outside of the country can come and use your website, gamble, even though it's illegal. So there's a few ways to address that problem, and in fact, there was a session called Riding the Geolocation Wave, if you attended it, which was really good, where, I can't remember his name now, but... Tatum. Yeah, he gave a great presentation on it, and it'll be recorded. But basically, it was all about the geolocation wave and how websites are starting to adopt it, and the tools out there that you can now use to get the user's location and actually restrict certain access to parts. So the fact that browsers are becoming more geospatial aware makes it quite easy to be able to just detect their location and stop users from coming into your site. So if it's, I do know from your perspective, yeah, you want their money, but if it's illegal, I mean, I guess it's a... Yeah, it is illegal in New Zealand, so you could almost restrict it to say everyone in New Zealand is okay, but outside of the country...
I think we all agree. He gets a USB.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
You still do. It's a very good question.
That's a good one. You'll come and get it in the end. Right? Anybody else? Yes?
How about if you run a brothel and your customers, they don't give you the names and definitely not where they live?
Sorry, run what? Buying time here, sorry. Sorry?
A brothel. Did you say brothel? So what if you run a brothel and you don't know where your customers come from?
I have to say that that's not a business that we thought, but yeah.
There's another USB.
yeah, he's
Well, there's one thing you can do from geospatial side of things.
Stretching.
Demographics. You could take demographic, if you really want to do analysis around this, but you could take it doesn't matter whether it's a brothel or even a bank or any sort of other organization. You can bring in demographic data from, say, Statistics New Zealand, which is freely available, and start doing analysis on where your brothel should be positioned, or where, or the sort of customers you'd expect from that area, right?
I'll show you a really weird thing here now. In casinos now, and you're going to have to stretch your imagination here. On casinos now, they use geospatial to figure out which particular rooms or machines or whatever you call them make most money. So think about that.
Yeah, but he gets a key.
Yes, absolutely. That's one for you. Okay, do we have any time left? One more. No?
Primary school.
Primary school. Yep, that's a good one. Primary school is fine. I mean, primary school, you would know the children. You would know where they live. So that will give you demographics about the children attended. You also then tie that together to the Ministry of Education information about how well schools are doing compared to the others. Demographics of specific areas where your school is, your school zones, that's an easy one. So a lot of places have a school zone, so you can only get your kids to attend the school if you live in a certain area.
You could use it for walking school buses.
Absolutely.
People on the walking school
Exactly.
Yep.
I wish people do class reunions, or not reunions, but the class meetings of the parents, which ones fit in an area.
Correct.
Primary school would do those.
But also flipping that around to the other side of things, the Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education actually uses geospatial technology quite well. One of the things that they're doing is when they've been going through the whole broadband rollout to roll out broadband to schools, traditionally they would do this using Excel spreadsheets, and they go, this school has got broadband, or we've done this school, and it gives them a really hard view of, used to give them a really hard view of figuring out where things were. They've taken that and they've moved it into a geospatial platform where they're now they've basically taken all the schools and they've all mapped it. And each school has got attributes associated with it. You click on a particular school, you can see how much broadband there is, how many machines that they have in the school that are Windows machines, Mac machines, etc., how many pupils they have in the school, all via a mapping interface. So it's map-driven as opposed to using relational tables and Excel, etc.
So that was actually easy.
Do you find there's any moral questions that are going to pop over time as more information is gathered? Are people going to start to feel over-analysed?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, basically what we're seeing is that it's kind of interesting, the presence of people, how we are, what we are, where we live, that's actually moving to the net now, has been for the last couple of years. And I can see that in 5-10 years' time, basically there's going to be awfully a lot of information available of you out there. And, places like Facebook, especially with younger generation who aren't as paranoid about things as we old folks are, you can see how that's all changing. But yeah, there will be a lot of hurdles to go over.
There's a few new buzzwords that have come out in the geospatial area, and two words, crowdsourcing and VGI. And really what crowdsourcing and VGI is, I mean, these are great buzzwords that are now in the space, but what they really stand for is it's a new move for consumers and the public to contribute information back into organizations via the number of tools that are out there. So sites like Foursquare, sharing your location with others. But when you put that into a business context, the fact that, the really good example I give is outside your house, your power pole is out, but instead of actually going and picking up the phone, you can now just use your mobile phone with an application that's on there, whether it be a Windows phone or an iPhone app, and be able to log a call directly with the city council that gets put right through their system and dispatched. A guy's out there and he's fixing it for you, right? We're moving into the world. People are getting onto the stage where they don't pick up the phone to order a pizza. They go to, you know, a website, or it's getting into more interactive ways of working. And as people do that, information is just people are going to gather more information, and information is going to be getting pumped out into the community. Big sites like Google's pumping a lot of information out there. Microsoft Bing, there's a lot of stuff being pushed up on the internet. So yeah, a lot of the information is going to get out there, and yeah, I think it's going to grow substantially over the next few years.
Yep. Okay. That's great. I hope it was entertaining for you. It was entertaining for us. Thank you. Starting up the questions. That was good.